Imagine being at a luxurious gala, surrounded by wealth and power, but feeling completely empty inside. Thomas, a millionaire used to success, has his world turned upside down when a curious little girl approaches him and whispers, "You're the man in my mom's photo." Those unexpected words dig up a past he thought he'd buried, a lost love that left deep scars. But that's just the beginning. As Thomas searches for answers, he gets pulled into a web of secrets and memories, where every new discovery challenges what he thought was true and what really matters in life. What he's about to uncover will change everything and leave him on the edge of a decision that could transform his future forever. Curious to find out what happens next? The story is just getting started. As I stepped into the grand ballroom, the glittering chandeliers cast a warm glow over the sea of elegantly dressed attendees. The air was heavy with the scent of expensive perfume and the soft hum of laughter and chatter. I adjusted my cufflinks, trying to project an air of confidence, but inside I felt like an imposter. The clinking of glasses and the rustling of silk and satin surrounded me, yet I felt achingly alone, lost in a world that seemed to celebrate everything I had achieved, while I remained haunted by the ghosts of my past. I stood at the edge of the crowd, observing the conversations that flowed like the champagne being poured. My gaze drifted over the faces of powerful businessmen and glamorous women, their smiles bright and carefree, completely oblivious to the turmoil that churned within me. I had everything: money, status, connections. But at that moment, felt meaningless. My thoughts were consumed by memories of a love I had lost, a love that still echoed through the corridors of my mind. "Thomas, over here," a familiar voice called out, pulling me from my reverie. It was Mark, an old colleague and friend. He approached with an infectious grin, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You look like you're ready to conquer the world. Come on, let's mingle. You can't just stand here looking broody." I forced a smile, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Yeah, just taking it all in," I replied, though I knew I was lying. "Quite the spectacle, isn't it?" Mark chuckled, clapping me on the back. "Spectacle is an understatement, but don't let it overwhelm you. You've earned your place here. Now let's find you a drink. You need to lighten up." As we walked through the crowd, I nodded and exchanged pleasantries with various guests, but my heart wasn't in it. The laughter felt hollow, and the conversations blurred into a monotonous hum. My mind drifted back to Sarah, the woman who had once filled my life with light. I could still see her face, the way her eyes sparkled when she smiled, and the warmth of her laughter that resonated deep within me. I missed her more than I cared to admit. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by a small voice. "Excuse me, mister," it said, pulling my attention away from the crowd. I turned to see a little girl standing there, no more than 6 or 7 years old. Her golden curls framed a cherubic face, and her deep brown eyes looked up at me with a mixture of curiosity and innocence. "Yes, sweetheart?" I asked, kneeling down to her level. "You're the man in the picture," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The one in Mommy's photo." Her words struck me like a bolt of lightning, sending shockwaves through my chest. "What do you mean?" I stammered, trying to process the implications of her statement. She smiled, a radiant beam that cut through the heaviness of the evening. "Mommy has a picture of you. She says you used to be her friend and that you were really special." At that moment, the world around me faded. I felt my heart race, memories flooding back. Memories of Sarah, of laughter shared between us, dreams we had woven together before they unraveled into silence and regret. "What's your name, little one?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "Emily," she replied, her eyes wide with wonder. "Emily," I repeated, trying to steady my breath. Do you know where your mom is?" She nodded eagerly, pointing toward the other side of the room. "She's over there. I want to show you." I hesitated, my mind racing. I had not seen Sarah in years, had not dared to reach out after everything that had happened. But the little girl's innocent enthusiasm sparked a flicker of hope within me. A hope that maybe, just maybe, I could face my past. "Lead the way, Emily," I said, trying to mask the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. As we walked together, I felt a strange sense of anticipation, as if the universe was aligning to give me a second chance. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a journey, what unearthed secrets I had buried deep within my heart. As I stood in my studio, surrounded by canvases and the lingering scent of paint, I tried to focus on my new artwork. The sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting a warm glow that usually inspired me. But today, my heart felt heavy, laden with the weight of memories I couldn't escape. "Mommy, look at this." Emily's voice chimed in, a pure note of joy that cut through my reverie. She held up a small painting she'd done, her little hands smudged with color. "I made it for you." I forced a smile, crouching down to meet her gaze. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. You've captured the colors of spring perfectly." I ruffled her hair, trying to shake off the shadows that clung to my mind. But as I looked into her bright eyes, I felt the familiar tug of nostalgia, pulling me back to a time when everything seemed so much simpler, yet infinitely more complicated. "Mommy, can we talk about that man I met at the gala?" Emily asked, innocent curiosity piercing through my thoughts like a needle. I felt my heart sink. "What man, darling?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but the way she leaned closer, her eyes wide with excitement, made it difficult to hide my apprehension. "The one in the picture? The one you said you used to love?" she exclaimed, her face radiating enthusiasm. "He looked sad, Mommy, and I asked him why. He didn't answer, but I think he remembered you." I swallowed hard, a lump forming in my throat. "Emily, sweetie, it's complicated," I replied, forcing the words out as I stood up, my back to her, trying to mask the turmoil within me. "But he was nice, and he looked at me like he knew me. Like he wanted to say something important," she pressed, her small hands gripping my arm. I turned to face her, the light catching the innocence in her gaze, and I felt a rush of emotions. "Emily, sometimes people have histories that are hard to explain," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "He was a big part of my life once, but things changed. Life, it's not always fair." "Did you love him, Mommy?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, and the question struck me like a bolt of lightning. "I did," I admitted, my breath hitching in my throat. "Very much." "Then why don't you talk to him? Maybe he wants to talk to you too," she suggested, her sincerity shining through her youthful exuberance. The thought of confronting my past, of facing Thomas again after all these years, sent chills down my spine. I could almost hear the echoes of our laughter, feel of his warm embrace, but I could also hear the pain of our separation, the silence that followed our goodbye. "Because, dear, it's not that simple," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes, easier to let things stay in the past." "But what if he's sad? What if he needs you?" Emily insisted, her brows furrowing in concern. "People shouldn't be sad, Mommy. They should be happy together." I knelt down once more, pulling her into a hug. "You're right, my sweet girl, but the world isn't always that easy. Sometimes we make choices that lead us away from the people we love." As I held her, a faint sound caught my attention. "Thud." I turned, and my eyes fell on an old journal that had slipped from the shelf, landing open on the floor. Curiosity piqued, I approached it cautiously, the leather cover worn and familiar. "What's that, Mommy?" Emily asked, peering over my shoulder. "Something I wrote a long time ago," I replied, my voice laced with nostalgia. I bent down and picked it up, flipping through the pages filled with swirling letters and unfinished thoughts. "I see?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Maybe later," I said, my heart racing. I knew that within those pages were letters I had never sent to Thomas, words filled with love, regret, and unspoken feelings. As I flipped through the pages, I caught sight of a letter addressed to him. The words were raw, each sentence a testament to my heartache, a reminder of the love we once shared. "Sarah, you're stronger than you think," I whispered to myself, feeling the tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "Mommy, are you okay?" Emily asked, concern etched across her face. "I'm okay, sweetheart." "Just a little overwhelmed," I replied, forcing a smile. "Can we paint together? It'll make you happy," she suggested, her enthusiasm infectious. "Of course," I replied, setting the journal aside for now, realizing that perhaps it was time to face the past, one brush stroke at a time. I was determined to understand what had just happened. The encounter with Emily, that little girl with her innocent eyes, had shaken me to my core. It was like a door I thought was long closed had been flung open again, letting in a rush of memories I had tried so hard to forget. I spent days after the gala searching for information about Sarah and Emily, diving deep into the past I thought I had left behind. One evening, I sat in my home office, the dim light from the desk lamp casting elongated shadows on the walls. I had my laptop open in front of me, and I scrolled through old photographs and articles that reflected my life before the success, before the isolation. I reached out to a few old friends from college, those who had known Sarah and me back when we were young and foolishly in love. "David, it's been ages," I said into the phone, my heart racing. "Do you remember Sarah? How is she doing these days?" "Thomas, wow, it's great to hear from you," David replied, voice warm but surprised. "Sarah? She's doing well, I think. She's still painting, you know. Last I heard, she's got a gallery show coming up. Why do you ask?" I felt a rush of feelings at the mere mention of her name. Just curious, I guess. That girl Emily at the gala, she mentioned her mother knows me. I just want to make sure Sarah is okay. There was a pause on the other end, and I could hear David shuffling papers. "You know, Thomas, Sarah never really got over you. Not completely. She's kept a lot of those memories close to her heart. You should reach out to her." "Reach out?" I echoed, feeling a mix of hope and dread. After all this time, what would I even say? "Just be honest. You owe her that much. She's a strong woman. She's also been through a lot," he replied, and I could hear the concern in his voice. After hanging up, I sat in silence for a long time, contemplating David's words. I had spent years building a wall around my heart, but the thought of Emily and the possibility of reconnecting with Sarah tore down some of those bricks. I began to research art galleries in the city, hoping to find the one where she would be showcasing her work. Meanwhile, Sarah was experiencing her own turmoil. She had found the old letters I wrote to her, letters I never had the courage to send. I could picture her sitting in her studio, surrounded by canvases, the weight of our shared history pressing down on her. I imagined her fingers brushing over the yellowed paper, reading words that still held my heart and soul. "Mom, are you okay?" Emily asked one afternoon, her voice breaking the silence, filled with concern. "You've been so quiet lately." "I'm fine, sweetheart," Sarah replied, a hint of sadness in her voice. "Just thinking about some old memories." "Is it about that man? The one from the photo?" Emily prodded innocently, her eyes wide with curiosity. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing. "Yes, it is. He was important to me. I met him, you know, at the gala," Emily exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "He looked sad, but I think he's nice. He's the man in the photo, right?" "Emily?" Sarah sighed, a mixture of nostalgia and apprehension washing over her. "It's complicated." "Why?" Emily pressed, innocence demanding answers. "Can't you just talk to him? You always say talking helps." Sarah's heart ached at her daughter's words. Her childhood dreams and the love she lost felt more alive than ever, and yet the fear of reopening old wounds held her back. Little did I know, while I was piecing together my past, the man I had been, Sarah was wrestling with her own feelings and memories. I could feel the invisible threads connecting us, pulling tight with every passing day. And somewhere in the midst of all this, Victor lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. That was a danger I had yet to confront. For now, all I could focus on was the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could find my way back to the love I had lost. The quaint cafe had an air of intimacy, the soft hum of conversation and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloping us. I sat across from Sarah, my heart pounding in my chest. It had been years since we'd last seen each other, and the weight of our shared history hung heavy in the air. I could feel the tension radiating between us, a tightrope of unspoken words and unresolved feeling. "It's been a long time, Thomas," she said, her voice soft yet edged with uncertainty. Her gaze flickered to the window, as if searching for an escape in the bustling street outside. I could see the shadows of doubt crossing her features, a reflection of the turmoil that must have been stirring within her. "Yeah, it has." Cleared my throat, trying to find the right words. "I never thought I'd see you again, especially not like this." I gestured between us, the weight of our past palpable. She nodded slowly, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup nervously. "I didn't expect it either. Emily, she has a way of bringing things to the surface, doesn't she?" A hint of a smile played on her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I didn't think she would recognize you." "Neither did I." I admitted, the memory of Emily's innocent declaration still echoing in my mind. It was like a jolt. Seeing her and hearing those words, it took me back to a time I thought I had buried. I leaned in, my heart racing. Sarah, I've thought about you every day since everything fell apart. Her expression shifted, a mixture of vulnerability and guardedness. You don't have to say that just because we're here, she replied, her voice tinged with sadness. Things happen for a reason, Thomas. We made choices, and we have to live with them. It's not that simple. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks. I've carried the regret of losing you for so long. You were my everything, and I let you slip away. I took a breath, searching for the right words to bridge the gap between us. What happened between us, it was a mistake. I should have fought harder. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment the world around us faded away. We both made mistakes, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I should have been stronger too. I thought moving on would be easier, but it never was. The air crackled with unspoken emotions, and I could feel the tension rising. Just as I was about to respond, Emily, who had been quietly coloring in her sketchbook on the table beside us, looked up with her wide, innocent eyes. "Mommy, why are you and Mr. Thomas sad?" she asked, tilting her head. The question pierced through the heaviness like a beam of sunlight. Sarah's expression softened, and she forced a smile. "We're not sad, sweetheart. Just talking about grown-up things." Emily frowned, her brows knitting together in confusion. "But you both look like you're thinking really hard. Can't you think about happy things?" I chuckled softly despite the tension. "She's right, you know. We should focus on the good stuff," I said, glancing at Sarah, who was struggling to maintain her composure. "Okay, how about we think of something fun?" Emily suggested eagerly. "Like ice cream. Can we go get some?" Sarah sighed, a reluctant smile breaking through her tension. "I think we can manage that, don't you, Thomas?" "Absolutely," I replied, grateful for the little girl's ability to lighten the mood. "Ice cream sounds perfect." Emily clapped her hands together, her excitement infectious. "Yay, I want chocolate sprinkles." As we continued to talk, the atmosphere shifted. The weight of our past lingered. For now, we were able to breathe a little easier. I couldn't help but feel that Emily's innocent perspective was a beacon of hope, guiding us through the murky waters of our shared history. Perhaps, just perhaps, we could find a way back to each other amidst the chaos of our lives. I sat in my living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting long shadows on the walls. The remnants of the day felt heavy on my chest. After the unexpected encounter with Thomas, I was a whirlwind of emotions: excitement, confusion, and a touch of fear. Emily was playing quietly in her room, and I could hear the soft sound of her laughter, a reminder of innocence that seemed worlds apart from the turmoil swirling in my mind. "Mommy," Emily called out with a sudden burst of energy, breaking my reverie. I took a deep breath and walked towards her room, finding her sprawled on the floor, surrounded by crayons and sheets of paper. "Look what I drew," she exclaimed, holding up a colorful picture. It was a drawing of a family, me, her, and a tall man with dark hair. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," I said, forcing a smile despite the knot tightening in my stomach. "Who's that man?" I asked, pointing at the figure that looked unmistakably like Thomas. "It's Daddy," she said with a giggle, completely oblivious to the turmoil in my heart. "Emily, honey, remember we talked about that?" I knelt beside her, trying to maintain my composure. "Daddy is someone from a long time ago." "But I met him today," she insisted, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "He was so nice, Mommy. You should see him again." The innocent enthusiasm in her voice made my heart ache. I wanted nothing more than to be the mother who could indulge her fantasies. The reality of my past loomed large. Memories of Thomas flooded my mind. His laughter, the way he made me feel alive, and the sharp pain of our separation. I had buried those memories deep, but Emily's innocent remarks were unearthing them, one by one. "Emily, it's complicated," I said softly, trying to explain the unexplainable. "Sometimes people, they grow apart. It's not always easy to come back together." "Why not?" she asked, her small brow furrowed in confusion. "You loved him, right?" I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her question. "Yes, I did, but things happened that made it hard for us to stay together." "Like what?" she pressed, her curiosity unrelenting. "Like misunderstandings and choices that hurt us both," I replied, my voice trembling slightly. "But you know what? I'm happy now with you." "Mommy, you should talk to him again." Maybe he still loves you, Emily declared, her innocent wisdom cutting through my doubts like a knife. Maybe, I murmured, the thought sending a chill down my spine. I couldn't deny that the spark between Thomas and me was still there. But could I trust it? Could I trust him? The phone rang, pulling me back to the present. Was Victor? I hesitated before answering, knowing he was a constant source of unease in my life. "Sarah, we need to talk," he said, his voice smooth but laced with an underlying threat. "I heard about your little reunion with Thomas." "What do you want, Victor?" I replied, trying to keep the irritation from seeping into my tone. "I just want you to be careful," he warned, his tone shifting to one of concern that felt insincere. "You don't know him like you think you do. He's not the same man you fell in love with." "Why do you care?" I shot back, my defenses rising. "You've never cared about me or my feelings." "I care about you, Sarah. I always have. I just don't want to see you get hurt again." There was a pause on the line, and I could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. "You have to think about Emily too. Do you really want to bring that kind of chaos into her life?" His words struck a chord, and I felt a wave of doubt wash over me. Could I really risk my daughter's happiness for the sake of my unresolved feelings? "I'll think about it," I said curtly, ending the call before he could say anything more. As I hung up, I felt the weight of Victor's words pressing down on me. I knew he had his agenda, but the seed of doubt he planted began to sprout. I glanced back at Emily, who was still happily engrossed in her drawings, and my heart ached. Would I be able to reconcile my feelings for Thomas with the fear of potential heartbreak? I sat in my living room, the weight of Victor's words still heavy on my mind. The sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains, casting a warm glow on the room, but it did nothing to lift the chill that had settled in my chest. How could he say such things about Thomas? Felt like a betrayal to even consider them. Yet his voice echoed. "He's not trustworthy, Sarah. You know he's not the man you think he is." I shook my head, trying to dispel the doubts creeping in. No matter how many years had passed, Thomas had always been my anchor, a true north. Couldn't let Victor's manipulation cloud my judgment. But what if I was wrong? What if the past held secrets that I had chosen to ignore? My fingers brushed against the spine of the old diary on the coffee table, a relic of my younger self, filled with dreams and unspoken words. I hesitated before opening it, but curiosity won over the fear of what I might find. As I flipped through the pages, I came across the letters I had written to Thomas. Letters that had never seen the light of day. Each one was a testament to my heart's turmoil, filled with regrets and what-ifs. I read a passage aloud, my voice barely a whisper. "I miss you, Thomas. Every day feels like a shadow of what it could have been." My heart ached with the intensity of those feelings, memories flooding back, but Victor's words lingered, haunting me. Suddenly, the sound of Emily's laughter broke my reverie. She burst into the room, face alight with energy. "Mom, can we play outside?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Sure, sweetheart. Just give me a moment," I replied, forcing a smile. How could I let my confusion affect her joy? As she dashed out, I felt a surge of determination. I couldn't allow Victor's poison to seep into my mind or my daughter's life. The question gnawed at me. Was Thomas worth the risk? Meanwhile, across town, Thomas was grappling with his own set of challenges. He paced his office, the weight of Victor's threats hanging over him like a dark cloud. "Why does he have to meddle now?" he muttered to himself, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "I can't let him drag me back into that madness." His phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. It was a message from an old friend, filled with snippets of gossip about Victor's latest schemes. "He's up to no good, Thomas. You need to be careful," text read. A sigh escaped Thomas's lips as he realized just how much he had to lose. "I need to talk to Sarah," decided, his heart racing at the thought. The connection they had rekindled felt fragile, and he couldn't risk losing it again. He knew Victor would stop at nothing to drive a wedge between them, and that thought ignited a fierce determination within him. "I won't let him win," vowed. As the day wore on, I found myself lost in my thoughts, torn between the past and the present. Emily's innocent chatter filled the house as she played, but my mind was elsewhere. I was pulled back to memories of Thomas, his laughter, the way he made me feel alive. But Victor's words lingered, like a shadow that wouldn't fade. That evening, Emily approached me with a concerned look. "Mom, why do you look sad? Is it about Thomas?" I knelt down to her level, searching for the right words. "Sometimes, sweetheart, grown-ups have to make hard decisions. Thomas is complicated." "Complicated? But he's nice. He made you smile." Emily insisted, her brows furrowing in confusion. "Can't you just talk to him? Maybe he's not complicated at all." Her innocent wisdom hit me like a bolt of lightning. I realized that perhaps it was time to confront my feelings. I needed to see Thomas, to hear his side of the story, to understand what had changed. "Maybe you're right, Emily," I said, hugging her tightly. "I'll talk to him." Just then the doorbell rang and my heart skipped a beat. Was it Thomas? I opened the door cautiously, my breath catching in my throat when I saw him standing there, looking as handsome and determined as ever. Our eyes locked, and for a moment everything else faded away. "Sarah?" he said softly, his voice filled with a mix of hope and anxiety. "Can we talk?" The air was thick with unspoken words and emotions, and as I stepped aside to let him in, I realized that I was ready to confront not only him, but also the tangled web of my heart. Past might be complicated. Perhaps it was time to unravel it, one thread at a time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I felt a wave of nervous excitement wash over me. Emily had planned this outing, insisting that it would be a magical day. I could see her bouncing on her toes, her brown curls bouncing with each step as we headed to the local park. I couldn't shake the anxiety that clung to me. I was about to spend a whole day with Thomas, the man who had haunted my dreams for years. "Mom, look at the ducks," Emily squealed, pointing towards the pond. Her joy was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile at her enthusiasm. "Can we feed them?" "Sure, sweetheart," I replied, my voice softer than I intended. I watched as she dashed towards the water's edge, scattering breadcrumbs she had insisted we bring. As I stood there, I felt a presence beside me. I turned to see Thomas, his gaze fixed on Emily, a look of warmth and admiration in his eyes. "She's amazing," he said, his voice steady yet tinged with emotion. "You've done such a great job with her, Sarah." A lump formed in my throat at the compliment. "Thank you," I managed, feeling a mix of pride and a surge of old feelings. I had spent years trying to put that part of my heart away. Seeing him again brought everything rushing back. "Remember when we used to come here?" Thomas asked, his eyes twinkling with nostalgia. "You used to chase those ducks while I tried to keep up with you." I chuckled, the sound almost foreign after so much time. "I think I still have the same energy level," I teased, but the laughter faded as I caught his gaze. There was a depth there, a longing that mirrored my own. Emily splashed in the water, her laughter ringing out like the sweetest melody. "Come on, join us," she called out, her innocent invitation pulling me from my reverie. "Should we?" I asked, glancing at Thomas. "Why not?" he replied, a smile breaking across his face. "Let's make some memories." We stepped closer to the pond, and soon we were all crouched down, tossing crumbs to the ducks. I watched as Emily squealed in delight, her joy pure and untainted. It was a reminder of the simple pleasures I had once cherished, carefree moments before life became complicated. "Mom, can we keep a duck?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with hope. I laughed, shaking my head. "I don't think we can take one home, sweetheart." Thomas knelt beside Emily, his voice soft. "But we can always visit them, just like we're doing now." The warmth in his tone made my heart flutter. I could see the man I once loved in the way he interacted with her, and it brought back memories of laughter shared and dreams once spun between us. As we moved away from the pond, I felt a weight begin to lift off my shoulders. We wandered into a small grove of trees, the leaves rustling gently in the wind. It felt like a sanctuary away from the world, and I caught myself stealing glances at Thomas. "Sarah," he said suddenly, breaking the comfortable silence. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," I replied, my heart racing. "Do you ever think about us?" He hesitated, his eyes searching mine. "About what could have been?" I felt a pang in my chest, the truth clawing at my insides. "All the time," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But it was complicated, Thomas. We were so young, and life, it just happened." "It's still complicated, isn't it?" replied, his brow furrowing. "But seeing you today, it feels like maybe there's still something here." Thomas, I started, but Emily's voice broke through the tension. Mom, what's love? She asked, looking up at me with those innocent eyes. I blinked, caught off guard. Love is. I hesitated, searching for the right words. Love is when you care for someone deeply, when their happiness matters to you. Emily tilted her head, considering my words. Like how I love you? Exactly, I smiled, my heart swelling. And I love Thomas, she proclaimed, turning to him with a sincere grin. Thomas chuckled, the tension easing a bit. I love you too, Emily. You're special. I watched as they shared a moment, the innocence of childhood weaving a thread of connection between us. In that instant, I realized that maybe, just maybe, the love we had wasn't entirely lost. It was still there, waiting for the right moment to bloom again. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the city, I found myself pacing the floor of my penthouse, the invitation in my hand feeling heavier than it should have. The upcoming gala was a grand affair, one that I had attended countless times before, but this time was different. This time, I wasn't just inviting a date. I was inviting Sarah, woman I had loved and lost, back into my life. Emily, sweetheart, can you come here for a moment? I called out, my voice slightly wavering with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Moments later, my daughter appeared, her innocent smile lighting up the room. Daddy, what's up? She asked, her curiosity evident in her bright eyes. I was thinking about the gala this weekend, I began, kneeling to match her height. I want to invite someone special to come with us. What do you think about your mom? Really? You mean Sarah? She exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with the kind of joy only a child could possess. That would be amazing. I love when we're all together. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a surge of hope. I know it's been a while since we've all been together like that. I think it could be good for us. Emily's small hands gripped mine tightly. You should ask her, Daddy. Maybe she'll say yes. Right. I just hope she's okay with it, I muttered, feeling the weight of the past pressing against my chest. I had hurt her once, and the thought of reopening those old wounds made me hesitate. Just be brave, Dad. You always say that, she chirped, confidence unwavering. I chuckled softly, her words reminding me of a lesson I often preached but rarely followed when it came to matters of the heart. You're right. I just need to be brave. With renewed determination, I picked up my phone and texted Sarah. My fingers hesitated over the screen as I typed, the words feeling both thrilling and terrifying. Hey, Sarah. I know it's been a while, but I'd love for you to join Emily and me at the gala this weekend. Would mean a lot to us. I hit send, the message whisking away my hopes and fears into the digital ether. Hours dragged on, and I found myself checking my phone incessantly, my heart racing every time I heard a ping. I was about to lose faith when finally my phone vibrated with a response. Hi, Thomas. It's been a long time. I'm surprised you asked. Think about it. A mix of relief and anxiety flooded through me. Think about it? I murmured aloud, pacing again. What kind of answer is that? Emily re-entered the room, her face bright with anticipation. Did she say yes? Not exactly. She said she'd think about it, I replied, trying to mask my disappointment. Oh, come on, Daddy. You have to convince her. Emily insisted, her little hands on her hips, mimicking my own determination. You two were so happy together. You can be happy again. I smiled at her unwavering faith. You really believe that, don't you? Of course. I believe in love. And you love her, right? She pressed, her innocence piercing through my doubts. More than anything, I confessed, feeling the weight of those words. As the days passed, gala approached, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread mixed with hope. I wanted Sarah to join us, to reignite the flame we once shared. The evening of the gala arrived, and as I donned my tuxedo, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The man staring back was a blend of a hopeful romantic and a man weighed down by past mistakes. You can do this, I whispered to myself, summoning every ounce of courage I had within me. Emily twirled in her dress, beaming with joy. You look so handsome, Daddy. Thanks, kiddo. You're the star of the night, though. Can we go now? I can't wait to see Mom. Her excitement was infectious, yet my heart raced with uncertainty. I dialed Sarah's number 1 last time, hoping to hear her voice. Hey, it's me. Just wanted to check in before we head out. Emily's really looking forward to seeing you. Hey, Thomas, I'm still deciding, she replied, and I could hear her hesitation. Please come, Sarah. It would mean the world to both of us. No pressure, but I just think it could be good. I'll think about it, she said again, and I felt a pang of frustration mixed with. Okay, I'll be waiting, and I hope to see you there, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. See you. As I hung up, I felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. I wanted her there, but would the ghosts of our past allow us to step into a brighter future? As lights shimmered in the grand ballroom, and the air was thick with anticipation and whispers, I stood there, heart racing, feeling the weight of Victor's malicious gaze on my back. He had been circling like a predator all evening, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I could sense the tension rising, like a storm brewing just out of sight. I had to confront him. I had to make a stand. Thomas, are you ready for this? Sarah whispered beside me, her voice laced with concern. Her presence was a comfort, but I could see the uncertainty etched on her face. I turned to her, searching her eyes for a glimpse of the woman I once knew so well, the woman I still loved. I have to be. For us, for Emily. I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. I won't let him ruin this moment for us. Just then, Victor sauntered toward us, his smile disingenuous, eyes narrowed with malice. Ah, Thomas, I see you've decided to bring your little family along tonight, sneered, glancing at Sarah and then at Emily, who was blissfully unaware of the tension swirling around her. How quaint. I clenched my fists, feeling my heart rate spike. What do you want, Victor? I demanded, keeping my voice steady despite the fury bubbling beneath the surface. Just wanted to remind everyone about your past, Thomas. You know, those little mistakes you thought you could bury under your wealth and charm, he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. The crowd began to murmur, eyes darting between us, sensing the impending clash. Let's not air dirty laundry in front of everyone, Victor. That's not how adults behave. I shot back, my voice firm, but I could feel a tremor of doubt creeping in. What if he did unveil something that would hurt Sarah, something I had kept hidden for so long? Victor leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. Oh, but isn't it time we stopped pretending? You think they don't deserve to know what kind of man you really are? I took a step forward, my heart pounding. You think you can intimidate me? You think you can ruin what I have with Sarah and Emily? I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, crowd's attention sharpening. You're wrong. I've faced my mistakes and I've learned from them. I refuse to let you manipulate our lives any longer. Sarah's hand found mine, squeezing it tightly, grounding me. I glanced at her, and I could see the worry in her eyes, but also a flicker of admiration. It fueled my resolve. Victor, you may think you have power over me, but you don't. What I have with Sarah and Emily is worth fighting for, worth standing up for. You can't touch that. Victor chuckled, a low, mocking sound. Fight all you want, Thomas, but remember, the truth can be a powerful weapon. He turned to the audience, his voice rising. Ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget that Thomas here has a history of making questionable choices. The murmurs grew louder, and I could feel the heat of embarrassment creeping up my neck. But I had come too far to back down now. You want the truth? I shouted, my voice booming across the room. The truth is that I loved Sarah more than anything, and I lost her because of my own mistakes. But I've changed. I'm not the same man I was. That caught their attention. I took a deep breath, keeping my eyes locked on Sarah's. I've spent years regretting my choices, and I won't let Victor's lies define me anymore. I'm here to reclaim my life and my love. I could see the crowd shift. Their interest peaked. Sarah's eyes glistened with something that looked like hope. I pressed on. I've faced my past, and I'm ready to embrace the future, no matter how painful it might be. Thomas, you're making a mistake. Victor spat, but I could see the cracks in his bravado. Am I? I countered, my voice unwavering. Or are you the one clinging to a past that doesn't serve you? I'm done living in fear of your games. Then, amidst the escalating tension, I heard Emily's sweet voice rise above the noise. Mommy, why does that man look so mean? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to her, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Her innocence broke through the animosity, and I saw Sarah's expression soften. Emily, sweetheart, sometimes people act out of fear. Sarah replied gently, kneeling down to meet her daughter's gaze. Fear of what? Emily asked, her brow furrowed, genuinely confused. Fear of losing what they love. I answered, glancing at Sarah, hoping she could see the sincerity in my eyes. In that moment, I realized that love, in its purest form, cut through the darkness. It was a power that even Victor couldn't extinguish. The atmosphere in the gala was electric, the light glinting off crystal chandeliers and the echoes of laughter and clinking glasses filling the air. But amidst all the glamour, my heart raced, a storm of emotions swirling within me. I spotted Sarah across the room, her presence both a balm and a reminder of everything I had lost. Our gazes locked, and in that instant, the noise around us faded, leaving just the two of us suspended in a world that felt both familiar and foreign. As I stood there, my pulse quickening, I could see the uncertainty etched on her face. I had faced adversaries in the boardroom, tackled challenges that would make most quiver. But this was a different battlefield altogether. My heart was on the line, and I was terrified. Yet I could feel Emily's small hand in mine, innocence shining brightly against the backdrop of our complicated lives. She was the bridge between us, a reminder of the love that once flourished. "Mommy, look," Emma exclaimed, tugging at Sarah's arm. "They're smiling at each other. Isn't that a good sign?" Her enthusiasm was contagious, and for a fleeting moment, the weight of our past felt lighter. "Maybe, sweetheart," Sarah replied, her voice wavering slightly. She looked between Emma and me, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Gathering my courage, I stepped forward, the crowd parting as if they sensed the gravity of the moment. The noise of the gala faded into the background, and all I could hear was the rhythmic beating of my heart. I could see the glimmer of doubt in Sarah's eyes, and my resolve hardened. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. "Can we talk? Just us?" She nodded, and together we moved to a quieter corner of the room, the buzz of the gala a distant hum. I could feel Emily's gaze on us, her wide eyes filled with curiosity and hope. "Thomas," Sarah began, voice barely above a whisper, "this is all so overwhelming." "I know," I replied, my heart pounding as I searched her face for understanding. "But I need you to know something." I took a deep breath, willing myself to be vulnerable. The moment Emily came up to me, I felt a connection that I thought was lost forever. I've spent years trying to move on, but the truth is, I never stopped loving you. Her eyes widened, and I saw a flicker of something, hope mingled with fear. "You don't understand, there's so much that happened, so much that we can't just erase." "I'm not asking you to erase anything," I responded, stepping closer, my voice earnest. "I'm asking for a chance to start again, to face our past together, not apart. I want to be the man you deserve, Father Emily deserves." Tension hung thick in the air as I waited for her response, my heart hammering in my chest. "Thomas," she said softly, her voice trembling, "after everything, can we really go back? Can we build something new?" "Maybe we can't go back," I admitted, "but we can move forward, together. I'm willing to fight for us, for our family. I don't want to lose you again." In that moment, the world around us disappeared, and I saw the flicker of hope ignite in her eyes. Suddenly, Emily's voice broke through the intensity of our exchange. "Mommy, what's happening? Are you and Daddy going to be okay?" My heart swelled at her innocent question. "Yes, sweetheart," I said, kneeling down to her level. "We're working on it, and we want to be a family again." Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes as she looked at Emily, then back at me. "You really mean that?" "I do," I promised, my voice steady. "I'm here for you both, no matter what it takes." With that, I leaned in closer, searching her eyes for a sign of trust. "I love you, Sarah," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thomas," she began, her voice trailing off as the tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm not perfect," I continued, my heart laid bare. "I've made mistakes, but I won't shy away from them anymore. I want to face whatever comes next with you." And then, in a moment that felt like a lifetime, she nodded, tears turning into a smile. "I love you too." As we embraced, the warmth of her body against mine felt like coming home. Emily giggled, wrapping her arms around us both. In that embrace, we stood united, family ready to face whatever the future held. The love we once shared had never truly faded. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to be reignited. Together, we were ready to write a new chapter, one filled with hope, forgiveness, and the promise of love that would endure. If you liked this story, just wait until you hear about Hank Thompson. In the small town of Winbrook, he's on the brink of losing everything. But when he helps a mysterious family, the Carters, his whole life takes a surprising turn. What seemed like a simple act of kindness turns into a journey full of secrets and old family ties. Who are the Carters really, and what secrets do they have that could change the fate of the whole town? Click on the video popping up on your screen now and find out how one small act can uncover long-buried truths and change lives forever. Don't miss it.